Welcome to Whitetail Rendezvous Podcast. This is Bruce Hutchin, host and executive producer. Each week you will hear tips, techniques, strategies, and personal stories from some of the best and funniest whitetail hunters in North America. Hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you do, tell a friend on social media. If not, tell me and I'll make it better. Thanks for listening, folks. Here at Whitetail Rendezvous, we love helping veterans, promoting teams that are out there helping veterans, volunteering. These people aren't paid, they're volunteers. And one of the guys that I've got on the show right now is Bastian, and Warriors Never Give Up, and co-founder of Warrior Arrow. And in the show, you're going to hear about Warrior Arrow. What's that all about? And that gives you an opportunity to support Warriors Never Give Up. Because what Brett found a long time ago, he wants to give back. He wants to help those folks that are struggling right now. And from the show we had, it was just awesome to hear about the testimonies, how his little group out there in Dakotas had changed people's lives. So stay tuned. I think you're going to enjoy listening as much as I did interviewing. Hey, good afternoon, everybody out there in Whitetail Rendezvous land. We're heading up to the Dakotas today. We're going to meet with the co-founder of Warriors Never Give Up and Warriors Arrow, Brett Bastian. Brett, welcome to the show.
Hi, Bruce. Thank you so much for inviting us on Whitetail Rendezvous. We're looking forward to an amazing day.
Yeah, I am too, and we've chit-chatted back and forth a little bit. So let's just start right off. Warriors Never Give Up. You helped co-found that. Let's talk about that because we all know that there's veterans out there that need help, and this is one of the entities that are doing that.
Yeah. So in 2013, God inspired me with the idea to give back to my fellow veterans. I shared that with two gentlemen, Carl Kreitzman and Brad Martin. And in 2013, we formed Warriors Never Give Up. Warriors Never Give Up is a God-inspired volunteer organization, and we provide outdoor adventures for combat, deployed, and service-connected disabled veterans. And so what makes us different is, number one, God's our chief sponsor. Number two is we're all volunteers, so none of us draw a paycheck. And number three, we take on all heroes, all wars, so we don't leave anyone out. The only criteria being is combat deployed or service connected. We became a recognized nonprofit in 2014 with the federal government.
You know, when you said was inspired by God, let's talk about, you had to have some framework. You know, are you sitting out in the deer blind or at Quick Trip getting gas and said, oh, I got to do this? Let's talk about how it became what it is today.
Yeah, my affinity for the wilderness is quite simple. That's a place for me to find peace and comfort, to be able to kind of shut down the busy life of medical practice that I work in as a physician assistant neurosurgery, and it's just my outlet. It's what I call my therapy. So wilderness is my therapy, and during that time of just relaxation and just taking the environment in during bow hunting, God just kind of gave me this idea that, hey, you need to do something more for your fellow veterans than what you're doing right now. And the idea was inspired just like that in a bow hunting tree stand.
I think that's great because we all get to that place out in the woods, and the hunt is on or over. It could be in 5 seconds, but all the rest of the time we're out there and enjoying what nature has for us or throws at us. And so that's interesting that your thought for Warriors Never Give Up came there. Now, so what did you do next?
Well, let me just step back one and just say that, the reason why we go to the outdoors is quite simple. I think there's some real significant healing that can occur when we get people out into nature and just kind of get away from their busy life. So, the design of our outdoor adventures, which are hunting and fishing adventures, is really for our veterans to really step back from those daily struggles that they're going through, to take a knee, to really connect with other veterans that have similar experiences, and for just a small period of time in their life, just to let them be themselves. And since 2014, when we became a registered nonprofit, we've served over 300 veterans, and I have 12 pages of testimonials, which proves that our motto, healing heroes through the outdoors, does occur. And so we're pretty proud of that. We're approaching this year as having the most events, most money raised, and 2018 is even going to be bigger than 2017. But going forward with the organization himself, we've got a strong board of directors, and to me, the sky's the limit with our generous sponsors and our giving donors. That I believe the sky's the limit with God in control and what we can accomplish, especially giving back to the men and women that fight for our freedom and the sacrifices that they've gone through.
Now, across the United States, there's a lot of organizations similar. Let's just put quotes around similar to yours. Why do you think, over the last 3 years, people have said, "Hey, I'm just going to go out and do it"? Now, there's some full-blown businesses that that are taking care of the veterans in the woods and stuff, but there's so many like you and your board that says, "I'm going to do this. I'm not going to take any money. I'm going to give free of my time." Why do you think across the country people are doing that?
I think the United States as a whole is a country that is proud of how it was developed, and it's proud of its veterans. And I think finally, if we go back 50 years, one of the things that we do through our organization is when we host Vietnam veterans, we make sure that we welcome them home. I will physically line up the Vietnam veterans, and I will line up all the volunteers, and we will walk through a line, and we will shake their hand, and we will say, "Welcome home, sir," or "Welcome home, ma'am." And I think it's really important that we learn from our past, nearly 50 years ago, and the way our veterans were treated in Vietnam, and use that as a learning tool to give back and to inspire our communities, whether it's for veterans or other things that people are passionate about. But I think we've learned from our past, and I think people are really patriotic and they're passionate about trying to do something for someone, whether it's veterans or other organizations within their community.
Yeah, well said. I can remember in the 60s, and when the people were coming back from serving, uh, I was in the Coast Guard and never went to Vietnam and never left the United States. And, I did my thing and then went back to college. But so many of my buddies came back to college too, and we're all there. And it was very interesting sitting around the coffee table or playing euchre or, playing cards and just talking about stuff, how different everybody's framed it. We were lucky because we went back to school. So it was interesting, to say the least, but it was still, we were in an environment, we were all together and we were supported, of each other. And so
Yeah.
it was an interesting time for me. As you were talking, I was just thinking back to my time. And so I didn't really get that pushback. Yeah, there was some protesters, there was some of this and some of that, but I never got the feeling, like you explained, some of those guys were and ladies were never welcome back. They
No.
were disdained. I mean, it
Some
was
of the
ugly.
yeah, some of the stories that they tell about being spit on and called baby killers, and I can tell you that I have one of my friends is a Vietnam veteran. He was a combat medic in Vietnam, and they would literally take their uniform off before they got off the airplane when they arrived in the United States. And as as a veteran yourself, that's got to be a pretty low time in your life to take off the uniform that you were proud to wear to fight for your country because of what other people might say or do to you. And I know that affected a lot of people. And we had a pro-am fishing trip last year, and one of the Vietnam veterans got up and spoke on behalf of himself and the other Vietnam veterans, and basically broke down and basically said, within the last 50 years, this is the first time he's been thanked for his service, and that happened at that pro-am fishing trip when we walked through that line and shook his hand and welcomed him home, and what a relief that must feel for those veterans that harbor that anger, that harbor that resentment towards how they were treated, and that's what we're about. We just want to give back. We want to uplift someone's spirit and just provide them with some hope, healing, and rediscovery of their life. In the event that that may help change something like that. I know for a fact that changed his life because his wife gave me a testimonial about how it changed his life, and those are powerful things that really kind of help feed and fuel the fire for our desire and passion to give back. And it's quite pure because we don't make a dime off of it, which is really cool. And so, we're proud of things like volunteer, God inspired. On average, we give 94% or more back to support the mission for every dollar that we raise. So that means we have less than 6% administrative costs. And even more proud than that is we're a platinum level nonprofit through GuideStar, which is a rating. They rate nonprofits, and so those are things that we're proud of. And there's been a lot of abuse over the years with nonprofits and saying they're doing things and they spend frivolously and they don't do exactly what they say. And so we've had to be real patient on what we're trying to accomplish. And basically we've had to prove ourselves along the way, and we've been okay with that because it's all this kind of patient, purposeful timing. And fast forward now 4 years. I mean, most money raised, most participation, and over 300 veterans and their families have participated since we started. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, it is. And let's just take a break right now. And I just want you, thousands of people listen to my show across North America. So just do your simple, welcome home and thank you to the Vietnam veterans specifically.
Men and women that fight for our freedom nearly 50 years ago, I want to welcome you home. Welcome home, both you men and women from the Vietnam era. You are welcome. If you are a combat deployed or service connected disabled veteran, we want you to participate in our outdoor adventures. We want you to feel welcome, and we're honored that you fought for our freedom a long time ago.
Now, how do I get in touch with you?
You can go to our website at warriorsnevergiveup.org. There's actually 3 tracks. If you go to the bottom of the website, we have a promotional video. It's a really cool promotional video that kind of outlines what we do. And also in there, I believe, is that segment from the Vietnam veteran that explained how he was finally welcomed home. But on the bottom, there's 3 tabs. Donate. So if someone wants to donate money, they can donate there. If they want to volunteer for what we're doing, there's a volunteer online application. And for those applicants that want to participate in either a hunt or a walleye fishing trip, they need to get to and from the event, but we take care of everything else once they're there. They can fill out that online application as well.
Now, who's qualified to apply for a hunt or a walleye fishing trip?
So anyone that's been deployed, has been in combat, or has a service-connected disability can apply for our outdoor adventures.
So, and that's any place in the country, is that correct?
Exactly. As long as they can get to South Dakota, unless we're hosting an event somewhere else. We have hosted events in Kansas and Missouri, but as long as they can get to South Dakota, have a valid hunting or fishing license, we take care of everything else once they're there. We don't provide travel expenses, but we will make sure that they have an amazing time once they get to the event.
Now, if a sponsor, somebody out there in hinterland, Sitka gear, somebody that's making some pretty good money from the hunting industry, if they wanted to just say, hey, I will cover 5 guys and gals to go to, South Dakota, how would they do that?
They can go to our donate page, and they can fill out the application for that. We actually have kind of a tiered system, platinum, gold, silver, and bronze level. And then within that tier, there's a specific things that we give them. For example, someone that is our platinum sponsor, that's a $10,000 or more sponsorship. They're going to get recognition during our Pro-Am fishing trip. They'll have their commercial air during the Pro-Am fishing trip, which airs next week on Midco Sports Network. They'll get their name recognition for the event itself. And then we have a whole other list of things that go along with each tier. So the best way to do that is either fill out that application, or they can contact me directly at 605-310-8330. I'd be happy to email them some information and get them involved.
Yeah, because I know some people say, hey, I'll sponsor 10 people to go X, to go to this event, whatever kind of event it is. And they'll just write that check, whatever, let's say it's $5,000. They'll just write the check, and it's, specifically for travel for this many people, or, or sponsors in. So I was just wondering how somebody, if they're of mine and think, maybe I should get involved. There's a lot of ways to get involved, I think, with your organization.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we need volunteers. We need hands and feet to do the work of God. And I think at our Pro-Am fishing trip on June 18th of this year, I think there were probably 50 people that were involved in that event alone, let alone the people that were the main portions of that, which were our professional walleye fishermen. We had the family that hosted that event had 88 American flags lined up along a gravel road that came to their house. If you can imagine
Oh my
88
goodness.
American flags lined up along a gravel road that basically just brings you right home. Can you imagine what that would feel like as yourself being a veteran and being participating in that event? It was powerful. My fishing buddy was a 93-year-old Purple Heart recipient from World War II that was shot in 1945, and he and I got third place only because of him, because he caught a 20 only because he caught a 28 and a half inch walleye and a 23 and a half inch walleye.
Those are nice fish.
That's he most people will never catch a fish like that. He caught two in one afternoon. It was unbelievable.
Now, where do you fish?
Well, in South Dakota, we primarily fish the northern lakes, the river. We have some private sloughs that we fish as well. Essentially, when we host these events, we kind of leave it open to the professional walleye fishermen that we partner with, the Lake Area Walleye Club. They've been gracious enough to donate their boats and their guides for the day. They're professional walleye fishermen and women, and that's one thing that really changed, because in the beginning, Warriors Never Give Up was really about hunting, because our passion was really the outdoors and hunting. My buddies and I like pheasant hunting. He was like deer hunting. But in 2016, fishing came along. A couple of these guys from the Lake Area Walleye Club approached me, Dan Geiken and Mike Doris, um, through a connection with Dan's wife, who I used to work with, and they wanted to learn a little bit more about what we're doing. And they have become on fire with our mission and our passion, and they single-handedly have changed the outlook of our organization, because not only now do we provide fishing or hunting, but we also now provide fishing opportunities for those that probably shouldn't have a gun. And it has single-handedly changed the outlook forever. Those people are so passionate. I mean, it's fun to, like yourself, you're passionate about what you do. It's fun to connect with people that have passion, the same type of passion for yourself and for what you're trying to accomplish for your fellow veterans. And when I met those two, I just knew that they were going to be an amazing partnership and they were going to do some amazing things. And that fishing group has single-handedly changed the outlook of this organization for the rest of its life. And that's pretty darn cool.
Well, yeah, and I'm just thinking. I've been fortunate to fish a lot, saltwater and freshwater. I'm just thinking, okay, so we're out there, we're fishing. We got somebody knows what they're doing, and there's two of us. What an opportunity to get in and just talk about stuff. And let's go back to our warm up. And I said, a deer hunt takes maybe 5 seconds. The buck comes in, you shoot the buck, the hunt's over. But it really isn't. That's just the period. That's just the exclamation point, because the time we spend in the tree stand is so much more meaningful, at least to me, and I know it is to you, Brett. Let's talk about that a little more. How you interact with the veterans, either on a hunt or in a fishing boat, because they are, and you can share things otherwise maybe won't get shared. So let's talk about that.
Well, I can tell you firsthand an experience from last summer's Pro-Am fishing trip. The event was full. There was a gentleman that was on the list that didn't contact me, so I filled his spot. And a week before the event, he calls up and says, "Hey, I just need to know where to send my paperwork." And if you can imagine, I'm on vacation and I'm frantic because I've already, in the back of my mind, I'm saying, I filled your spot. But I felt God tugging my heart saying, "Brett, you got to find a spot for this guy. He needs to be here." And so I called Mike Doris from the Lake Area Walleye Club, and I said, "Mike, there's 5 days before the Pro-Am. I just want to let you know this guy needs to come. I don't know why. Can you make it happen?" And he says, "Brett, I'll take care of it." Now, who's going to find a professional walleye fisherman within 5 days? He did it. And interesting enough, the guy that had him in his boat came up to me after the event was over and said, "Brett, he needed to be here. There's things that he talked about with that other veteran and the things that I heard that he needed to be here." And I said, "You know what, Darren? God told me he needed to be here. I had no idea why." And Darren didn't know this. I didn't talk to him about that. He approached me after the event and he said, "Brett, he needed to be here." So you're right. There are things that occur, whether it's after a walk when we do a pheasant hunt, or maybe it's back in the lodge when everyone's relaxing, or maybe it's when they connect with that other buddy of theirs that has had a similar experience. not everyone talks. Some of the things that they've gone through are very, very, very painful, and they don't really want to relive that. But those that do talk about it, there is some significant healing that goes on, and it gives me goosebumps and kind of makes tears in my eyes to even think about this gentleman from last year. Because if you don't go on your gut instincts on some of these things, you could really miss out on an opportunity to save one's life, or maybe to make a difference in one's life. And how cool is it to have someone come up to you afterwards and go, "He needed to be here," and then you go, "Yes, I knew that. I just didn't know why."
Yeah. And, you know, I talk about to my grandkids all the time. God's our compass, and he'll put us in the right direction if we listen. If we don't listen, it's just like everything else. If you have kids and they don't listen to you, you go, all right, how's this going to work out? And sometimes I
Yeah,
think I don't think I know God goes, you're going down that road, really?
yeah, yeah. I've done that. I've gone down a few roads I shouldn't have gone down. As I tell people, I bear a lot of scars of my past, and some of those are scars of reminders of things I don't want to do again. So you're right, and
Yeah, but go ahead.
that's the beauty of being out in the wilderness. I think that's where you take that compass, and you take all those other factors that cloud your thinking and the busyness of life, and all those things, and it makes you just be aware of God's voice and the opportunity, to uplift that spirit, to just say, you know what, you can do it. You have the gifts that it takes to do whatever it is in your life. I believe we all have that power. It's just a matter of whether we choose to listen to it or not, and then act upon it.
Yeah, I just think, you know, um, I can just right now shut my eyes. I'm on the Buffalo River, Buffalo County, and a creek comes in, Medina Creek, and I'm sitting there and I'm watching beavers, I'm watching ducks, I'm watching deer. There's actually turkeys on the ridge behind me, and I go, "Are you kidding me?"
Yeah,
I'm going, "You can't make this stuff up." It
yeah.
would
I
be,
feel
you just can't make that stuff up, and you're just sitting there, and the wind's blowing, the storm comes through, or whatever. It doesn't really matter, but you're participating in something as a yeah, you're participating, but also you're sitting there watching it all unfold, and it's to me it's miraculous. And I've been in the woods since I was 10 years old, so I've seen some really neat stuff. But I just think back to that one place, that tree stand, and everything that was going on. I go, holy fright,
mm,
and God did it for me. I mean, he laid this whole thing out just for me today, and
yeah.
you put your arms around that or put your head around that. You go, are you on drugs? Are you smoking the Colorado wacky weed? What are you talking about? But
Yeah.
and listeners, I'm not on the Colorado wacky weed. Okay. But it's just, we're telling a story, and we're both part of that stories. And so you take that part, and then you take people that have really got some issues. And I had a friend here in Colorado. I would not take him to the range. I would not put a loaded gun in his hand. He'd ask me, once a month, well, let's go to the range. And I go, that I'm not going to do that. And you know the reason why. He goes, yeah, but I go, there's no yeah, but. I mean, and fortunately, um, he's moved and his life is good now, but it, you're sensitive to that, and people, that's reality. And Brett, I'm sure you got hundreds of stories like that where people just in such a dark place, they just want to end it.
Yep. Yeah. In fact, that brings up a real good point. I have 7 combat veterans that are participating in one of our pheasant hunts at the end of next month. And one of the gentlemen that's coming with them is a brother of a soldier that committed suicide due to PTSD, and he's going to reunite with the other soldiers that his brother served with in Iraq, and it's gonna be a real powerful event at that pheasant hunt. I can assure you, and those things are real. I mean, PTSD does exist. Traumatic brain injury does exist. People do kill themselves. One veteran every 65 minutes. It's evident here in South Dakota as it is across the country. And what more powerful thing than to bring the brother of a young man that killed himself because of his service to our country and reunite him with his fellow comrades at a pheasant hunt. And just like I explained earlier about getting tears and goosebumps, I'm getting goosebumps just thinking about it, and just thinking about the life changing event for everyone involved, not just the veterans, but the volunteers, any participant, that's going to be there, whether it's a volunteer or a veteran. I think that is going to be pretty powerful. It probably should be on TV.
Yeah, I hopefully you film it that those portions that you can because um, listeners, this is what Brett does, and this is what a lot of other warriors in the woods. I'm just thinking of those guys out of Michigan that have a good friend that's involved with them. Kenny Maynard. There's a
Yeah,
beautiful
great guy.
story.
I
Do,
love that guy. A
do
buddy
you
of
know
mine.
Kenny?
Oh
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
he's a good buddy of mine, and they're doing some great things out there. And actually, I'm hoping to get those three guys up to one of our events next year.
Yeah, you do. And Kenny's shooting the bow with his teeth,
Yep.
because his left arm poke doesn't work. So go back, just type in Kenny Maynard, Whitetail Rendezvous, and you can hear a portion of his story. But that was 6, 8 months ago, and it's like holy fright! And it's like the situation um, with you, where this guy needs to be here, and his wife Courtney told him he needed to be on my show because he wouldn't
Yeah.
talk to people. He
Yeah.
literally
No,
would not talk to people.
yeah, in fact, he's so cool and so good that I think he got fourth overall this weekend in one
Yes,
of
he did.
and I think first in his age group. So
Right.
that's pretty
But
powerful shooting with your teeth.
yeah, he's shooting with his teeth. So go look up Kenny Maynard on YouTube, and he's out there. But I just think of him as one person that um, I've connected with, and it's just that little bit. You go, okay, we're going to take this away from Whitetail Rendezvous, and we're going to get into the heavy discussions, the meaningful. And Courtney, told him he had to be on my show, and he didn't.
Yeah.
He didn't
Well,
want.
he's the prime example of a true warrior. Not only did he serve his country bravely, but he's really stepped it up, and he has one of our arrows in his quiver. He's proud to be a Christian. He's proud to support the warrior arrow and what the meaning is. And but he truly is the warrior spirit that we're looking for to join our team.
And thing about Kenny is just that his growth over the last 6 months has been outstanding, or it's just been unbelievable. And I'd say all that little bit of a story about Kenny Maynard, and listeners, every single one of you know a Kenny Maynard, know that somebody's been beat up or they're broken mentally or physically, and you have the opportunity to just buy him a cup of coffee.
Yeah,
That's all you have to do is just extend a hand, say, let's go get a cup of coffee, and just see where it goes. But don't jump in there unless you're going to follow up. That's the other thing.
yeah,
If you jump in that pool, you've got to follow up. The person isn't, oh, that was nice, I'll see you later. You got to walk alongside them. So it's a huge responsibility in my mind. What do you think about that, Brett?
yeah. Well, it's much like what God does for us, right? He walks alongside us. He doesn't leave our side. He lets us make decisions we shouldn't probably make sometimes, but he's cheering for us along the way. And I think the same thing. You can't be cheering from the sidelines. You got to be an active participant no matter what you're doing. And if you really want to make a difference, you got to get in the game.
Yeah, and the thing I know, it doesn't take a lot of money. It takes some time. Forget about the money part. You always can find the money, but it's your time that you're going to invest in another human being, lady or guy. And there's so many people that just need that. And as Brett and his crew are doing, they're investing tenfold. That they've got some good things rolling along. And let's talk about kind of spin this off a little bit before we go there. Okay, how do people get in touch with you again? Let's let them
Yeah.
know how do people get in touch with you.
Well, it's warriorsnevergiveup.org. They can go to our Facebook page at facebook.com/warrior, capital N, capital G, capital U. And then we do have this new arrow called the Warrior Arrow. Kenny is a prime example of that warrior spirit. And they can get that at warriorsnevergiveup.org/war, W-A-R.
Show the arrow again. I couldn't see the arrow. Just step back a little bit.
Yep.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep. And that's warriorsnevergiveup.org/war, WAR-arrow. And the warrior arrow is really designed as a symbol for sacrifice. It's meant to be held in the quiver. It is a shootable arrow. We partnered with Flying Arrow Archery and Element Arrow to provide this arrow. We got boning blazer veins on it, and it comes with a warrior arrow certificate. May I read that certificate?
Sure. Heck yeah.
Because the warrior arrow is a symbol of strength, honor, faith, commitment, integrity, respect, courage, love, forgiveness, freedom, eternity, and self control. Keep it in your quiver as a reminder of the blood shed for our freedom by the sacrifices of the men and women warriors of this great nation. As the greatest warrior to ever live, Jesus Christ and his sacrifice on the cross for our salvation and eternity. It's time to uplift the warrior spirit in each of us and to start a revolution of change across the great nation. Our God, our country, our community, and our nation's heroes needs us to stand up and fight. And then we have Jeremiah 20:11. But the Lord is with me like a mighty warrior. So my persecutors will stumble and not prevail. They will fail and be thoroughly disgraced. Their dishonor will never be forgotten. And then on each arrow, we have two versions. We have a pink version and a regular red, white, and blue version. We have two Bible verses on it. And, Kenny is a prime example of that warrior spirit. He carries this in his quiver, and he was proud to support the arrow. And what's really neat about the arrow itself is that it's a $25 donation to Warriors Never Give Up per arrow, and all proceeds go back to Warriors Never Give Up minus the cost of the arrow and the fletching and the wrap. We don't make a dime on it. So once again, just like Warriors Never Give Up is an all-volunteer organization, my buddy Dustin Spurlick from Hunts Inns Outdoors, he's a combat veteran. He served in Iraq in 2007, 2008. Again, he initially came up with the idea of the fundraiser arrow. I came up with the warrior arrow, and then we brought our ideas together to create the warrior arrow fundraiser. And what a more powerful opportunity to share the story of Jesus Christ simply by the arrow itself, but also to remember the sacrifice, because there's been 1.2 million soldiers that have been killed over the years to fight for our freedom. And if you put that in perspective, there's only 1% of our population's ever served our country. There's currently 22 million veterans across the United States, and here in South Dakota, there's 76,000. What more importantly could we do than all of us grab an arrow, put it in our quiver, remember as a sacrifice not only for the men and women that fight for our freedom, but the ultimate warrior, Jesus Christ. I mean, this thing, I hope goes viral. I hope we can get a million arrows and a million quivers. What a more powerful statement we could make, and also raise money at the same time. I can't be more proud of Dustin and myself, and what we're trying to accomplish with this arrow. And it's been cool. It's kind of become a little ministry that I hope around, someday to go around the country and talk about what it means to uplift the warrior spirit. And let's see if we can uplift men and women warriors across this great nation. And instead of fighting, maybe we can all come together and love each other and respect each other.
I'd like to see that. There's too much. You shouldn't watch the TV. Shouldn't watch the news at all, because it's just warped, for sure. But thank you so much for sharing that. Let's change it up a little bit. Let's talk about hunting. Let's talk about whitetail hunting in the Dakotas. I noticed some boomer bucks. I've had some great guests there. I just had Nip and Kelsey out of Fargo, North Dakota, Dults. And, they take some big bucks out of North Dakota. So let's talk about hunting whitetails in the Dakotas.
Yeah, whitetail hunting is pretty awesome. Getting back to John Stallone from Days in the Wild, I won a contest with him. It was a goose deer hunting contest. I just had to get to Arizona, and he would take me out for 5 days. And man, I learned some things I was doing wrong this whole time, and no wonder, because I haven't really bagged a big buck yet. I've taken a couple small bucks and a couple does, but I've been doing a lot of things wrong over the years. I'm 49 this year, and thank God I won that contest, and John had me come out, and wow, that guy is a machine. You want to talk about a hunting machine. That guy lives, breathes, eats, he is a hunter. And so I learned so much from him. But yeah, hunting in the Dakotas, I like to bow hunt. My passion's bow hunting. I've got a back injury, a couple shoulder injuries, so I've kind of gone away from sitting in a stand to doing some spot and stalks and some just ground blind hunting. When I went out with John to do the coos deer hunt, I took my crossbow. The problem is we did a lot of walking. It was very painful for me, and so I went back and bought a used Matthew Helium, and I went back to start shooting a regular bow again. So I'm looking forward to this year. I've got an application into the Crow Creek Indian Reservation to shoot some monster whitetail, so hoping to do a little spot and stalk there. And then in November, I'm taking my son to New Mexico with New Mexico Arrowhead Outfitters, and we're going to do a mule deer hunt with a rifle. He's never been able to hunt before since we don't own our own land, and so he's a senior this year. So I decided to treat him to mule deer hunt in New Mexico. And then I hope to do I have some private land just north of where I live here, and so hoping to do a little whitetail hunting there as well.
Now, okay, I know John, and John is a hunting fool. In fact, he just where the heck was it? I think he was in Idaho. He got a bull. He's got like 4 or 5 tags. So he's going to be hunting all fall. So, folks, John does hunt. Check out his show on Whitetail Rendezvous. Just put him in, and I was on his podcast also. So, having said that, what did he teach you? What are some of the nuggets that you can share? That hey, I was messing up and I didn't know I was messing up. So,
I think, yeah.
what are some of the tips that he gave you?
Well, first and foremost, you have to have patience. You can't rush things, and I think that's one of the things that I learned from him is you need to get up early, you need to get where you're at, and you need to be patient. Shouldn't be rushing things. I think the second thing is that he is a glassing machine, and he can see things that I never thought existed. Having said that, I think it takes a really good set of binoculars or a spotting scope, and it takes a stable base. I think you got to have a tripod, and again, you've got to be on the ground and you've got to be patient. You've got to scan the area, and if it looks like something, you got to go back to it. There are so many things I learned from him, but I'll tell you, being patient and staying after it. If the first stalk fails, get back on the horse and try it again. And even though I didn't get a chance to shoot, I had an amazing experience. And like I said, the lessons that I learned will be with me for the rest of my life, and will definitely make me a better hunter. But I think if just be patient in what you're doing, don't rush things, and make sure you get some good binoculars. I think, or a good spotting scope, especially if you're going to do a spot and stalk type hunt, because you will miss things if you do not have that good pair of binoculars or good spotting scope.
Yeah, and I'll just echo that. I've been able to hunt a bunch of different stuff, so I get some good optics. And I've just started taking my optics and going back when I go back to Wisconsin and setting up on ridges where I can see a long way. I mean, and then just sitting there and just observing. And some guys have observation stands and they can do it that way. But you'd be surprised if you sit in one place, for 6 hours, 8 hours, how much you're going to see.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that you miss.
Well, it's just no question about it. There's no question about it. And all of a sudden say, why is that buck moving along that ridge and drown? Where's he going to go? And all of a sudden, a couple of hours later, he comes back the opposite way. And you go, oh, okay, because that's his main funnel. That's his travel corridor.
Yeah.
And once you figure that out, then you can say, okay, what do I need to be to intercept him, given everything, being the same. But, glassing is the most important thing you can do as any hunter. And I'm just going to put that out there. I firmly believe any type of hunter, no matter what you're hunting for, glass, and then glass some more. And don't move. Yeah. Don't hike the mountains and say, oh, I'm going to put in 10 miles today. Where you can sit on a ridge, especially in the Rockies, and you can see 20 miles. You can see, you can see those 10 miles. And, with the glasses today, a couple of miles is nothing. I mean, you can tell, age, sex, and everything.
Yeah.
So I think that's my 2 cents. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think the other thing is repetition is the master of success. So, I think those guys practice long distance shooting to make them more confident at short distances, but also at long distances. And so, I think one of the other things I took away from that is not be afraid to practice long distance and get comfortable with it. And if you're not comfortable, you shouldn't be shooting it. You have a comfort zone of whatever that is. For me, my comfort zone at this point is up to 40 yards. But I can assure you that those guys, they practice, faithfully at much longer distances than that. And I think that builds confidence. And I don't think they're afraid to take a shot and believe that they're going to hit it. I mean, because I think those guys are amazing shots. I mean, all I can say is that dude's amazing. And
John, we're giving you a bunch of shout outs, dude.
No kidding. Kenny and John, I mean, they should pay us for this.
Yeah, they sponsor the show. That's funny. So anyway, you mentioned you're going to an Indian reservation. You get a permit there, or do you have to get on the Indian land?
Crow Creek Indian Reservation is over by Fort Thompson in South Dakota here. you do have to have a tag. I've applied for that. I'm just waiting to hear back for that. And then I'll hire a Native American guide who happens to be a combat veteran that I've met. And this guy, again, kind of the same story. He went to the School of Mines here in South Dakota. Ended up becoming a veteran. He was a helicopter mechanic. He became homeless, and now he's back on the reservation doing some real powerful things. And so I was able to meet him through Warriors Never Give Up, and we've become friends. And I'm going to hire him to take me out if I draw that tag. And again, it's going to be one of those learning experiences. I mean, how many opportunities do you get to take? Where you in your life you get to meet someone that you're like, wow, that was really cool, no matter who it is. And along the way with Warriors Never Give Up, and certainly just in my life in medicine and in my life in hunting, I've met some really really awesome people. And I'm actually looking for that. I hope I get that tag because I mean the things that I'm going to learn from someone that went to the School of Mines, which is this prestigious college in South Dakota, and then was in the military, got deployed, and then became homeless, and now is back up on his feet, and he's talking about God and how God's been a part of his recovery. Um, I hope I get that tag. I mean, that's going to mean the world to me to be able to have that opportunity to just share that relationship. And I could care less if I shoot something at this point in my life. I love wildlife photography. I like shooting too. Don't get me wrong. If it presents itself, I want to bag a trophy for sure. But more importantly, that potential relationship that can be developed and that learning from that's going to be huge.
Hey, thanks for saying that. Now, is that reservation East River or West River?
That would be West River. Yeah.
So it's a little bit of a drive from where you are.
It's not too far. A couple, 2 to 3 hours, I think I can get there.
Yeah. And what type of whitetails do they have on the ranch or the reservation?
Well, he's assured me that if I get a tag, I'm going to get an opportunity to get a 140 to 170 class. So I know that's quite a range, but nothing's guaranteed. But he said he's been seeing some really big bucks, and that would be super cool.
No, is that rifle or archery?
No, this would be bow. I primarily am a bow hunter. I am that hunt in New Mexico. I am doing a rifle hunt just because my son doesn't bow hunt. He does have a bow, but he doesn't bow hunt. But my passion is really that getting out in the wilderness and just humping it and seeing what happens. Taking the elements as they come and closing the gap. How cool is that to see something from a mile away and try to get within 50 yards? I mean that's pretty cool. So my love is bow hunting. I can't get around as much as I like to, but I'm looking forward to the opportunity if it presents itself.
Well, thanks, Ed. We're at the point of the show that you give. You got a couple minutes to give shout outs to whomever. I know you got a huge, laundry list of people in your crew and people that have touched your life. But take a moment and let's do that, and then we'll wrap the show.
Okay. Well, first of all, Dustin Spurlock from Hunson's Outdoors. He came up with the original design of the Warrior Arrow as a fundraiser, and then I came up with the name, and we brought our stuff together. So, he's been really instrumental. He's a pastor by day. He's trying to start his own hunting show as well, and he has a small archery shop out of his home in Iowa there. And so, I want to give a shout out to him. He's one of my brothers, my military brothers, and also he's on the brother of this journey of the Warrior Arrow. And so I can't say enough about that guy, serving our country 2007, 2008 in Iraqi freedom, and the many other men and women that have, fought for our freedom, whether it be on U.S. soil or soil overseas. Also, we have an amazing board of directors. I can't thank enough with what they've been doing and the things that we've got going on. Without them, none of this is possible. The volunteers, again, the same thing. Without them, none of this is possible. And then people like the Lake Area Walleye Club, single-handedly, Dan Geiken, who's now on our board of directors in Lake Area Walleye Club, has really changed how our organization is going to be for the future and its future success with the walleye fishing and the professional walleye fishermen and women that come and help out. I mean, I can't thank them enough. And there's too many other people, but those are the people that come to my mind. Carl Kreitzman, Brad Martin, are other co-founders. We've been blessed by generosity of many, many, many people. and we're doing some really cool things. And I can't wait to see what happens with the future with the arrow. A million arrows, a million quivers. Wouldn't that be cool? And then a million opportunities to share this, story of Jesus Christ as well. I mean, that'd be a million lives saved. That'd be pretty awesome. And I look forward to what's happening next this fall. As I shared the story before with the 7 combat veterans that are coming with the brother that committed suicide. I mean, that stuff's real. People may want to, hide from that, but PTSD does occur. Traumatic brain injuries do occur. And one veteran does kill themselves every 65 minutes. I can assure you of that. And I just can't wait to see what happens next.
Well, Brett, on behalf of thousands of listeners across North America, including Kenny Maynard and John Stallone, thank you so much for bringing words never give up to Whitetail Rendezvous this afternoon. And so just thank you so much for sharing. And folks, take a look, get involved, buy an arrow, put it in your quiver, and it'll help you remember. Thanks so much, Brett.
Yeah, thank you for having us. We appreciate it.
Hey, folks, we're going to head up to northern Minnesota. And by northern Minnesota, from where Dylan Porter is, you can see the Canadian border. And Dylan works for his dad, Steve Porter, and they grow trophy whitetails. And they got in the business, his dad got in the business a long time ago, and now it's grown and grown and grown. But even more important than that, one, he's got some tips and techniques about using deer urine. I'm not talking about Estes urine. I'm talking about deer urine. And you're going to have to listen to the show. I don't want to give away any secrets, but he's going to knock your socks off with some insights that maybe you just haven't thought about. And the other thing Dylan's doing is Minnesota Monster Buck Classic. And it's going to be a big buck classic. He's going to have some of his dad's deer on display. Yes, they take live deer and they display them at these sportsman shows. So all in all, Dylan Porter's got one heck of an interview coming up. Can't wait to share it.
Thanks for joining us. Be sure to tune in tomorrow for another episode of Whitetail Rendezvous, where you can listen and learn from the experts so you can be more successful on your next hunt. Until next time, listen, learn, and succeed.